good morning, John. I guess,
Morning, Pat.
how you doing? Okay?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. John, for the first question, how did you start at Gateway?
Oh, wow. I was originally on the board of Gateway. I was running an agency called the Housing Help Center in St. Catharines.
Mhm.
And I knew the former ED, Tammy Lucio, and she was looking for new recruits. She approached me, and when I first got on the board, the plan was to close Gateway down because they had a lot of financial hardship at that time and were really struggling because it was still a fairly new agency. And then I was hired by the board December of 2002. So I'm entering my 20 years
20 years, John. Wow.
this December at Gateway. So
Wow. That's pretty long distance there, John.
it's the longest I've ever worked anywhere, Pat.
Yeah, I know. So so we figured out, John, I guess, how long you've been there. You said about 20 years.
Yeah.
How many people do you have working for you, John?
Gateway currently has, I think, about 82 staff.
Wow.
So
it's growing, John. Yeah.
So half of our funding comes from Ontario Health. And then the other half of our funding comes from the Niagara region.
Okay.
That's primarily for homeless services.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes outreach and then Housing First and Home for Good programs.
Okay.
And I guess the difference is that in Housing First and Home for Good,
mm-hmm.
We provide supportive housing and rent supplements, but you don't have to have a mental illness to be a consumer of those programs, whereas Gateway is specific to mental health consumers because we're funded by the ministry, and that's the criteria for the funding. So
okay. So the ministry is the one that supports you, John, like your Gateway?
The ministry supports, they provide case managers for us, and then they provide rent subsidies.
Okay.
So that's about half of our staff that are on that side of the funding.
Okay. And I guess, who are the people, John, that need your assistance?
It's pretty well everyone now because, like I said, to go into some of our homeless programs, criteria is that you have to be homeless or at risk of being homeless. So that could be anyone, right? It could be a youth, it could be someone who's Indigenous. Could be someone that has addiction issues, mm-hmm. someone leaving an abusive situation. Mm-hmm. And on the Ontario Health funded side, it's specific to individuals that have some form of mental illness and require housing or support.
Right.
So it's pretty broad.
Mm-hmm. Do you also have an area, John, where people are supported, I guess, through the food bank?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people that we support and house are on a fixed income. So, and as you know, if you're in receipt of a disability pension or welfare, it's very challenging, and unfortunately, they need to rely on the food bank for additional support because you just can't cut it on what you're getting.
right.
right?
Yeah. Now, that leads me to another question, John. I hope you can answer part of it.
Yep.
What do you think of basic income, John?
I fully support it, right?
Will you support it?
It just makes perfect sense,
Yeah,
right?
I would think so too. I was kind of looking into it too myself yesterday,
Right.
and it's very much needed, John. Like everything is going up, right?
Yes, and then unfortunately, because of COVID,
Yeah,
prices are skyrocketing now and rents are skyrocketing. So,
yeah, through the roof, John. Yeah,
right?
for sure. Uh,
It's also less restrictive because it's basically like in, it's not attached to disability. It's not, you know, because you have general welfare and then you have disability. So you would eliminate those.
yeah.
You'd eliminate a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy and
Mhm. So
um,
do you think, John, it should be federal that takes care of it or provincial?
I think, well, I mean, it could be both, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's right now the feds look after the old age pension side of it, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I mean, whatever.
I was hoping, John, that the feds would take it over because sometimes the provincial,
Yeah,
they seem to make things difficult.
right. But they do, but the feds do send money to the provinces.
Mhm.
So they could do that, right?
Yeah,
And just be allocated specifically to,
as long as, John, the provincial parties do that,
right.
you know.
Well, you
Okay.
hope, you always try to be optimistic and you hope the politicians do the right thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, a lot of people would count on them, eh, John?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, how or in what way do you support those who are living with mental illness, addictions, and homelessness?
Well, we're primarily a housing provider, as you know. So right now Gateway owns 7 buildings, and
Great, John.
5 of those we built under the Affordable Housing Initiative.
Mhm.
And all of our units are rent geared to income. So anybody in our program, the rents are affordable, and we only charge the maximum shelter allowance that someone receives. And then we also have rent subsidies through private market landlords, where we rent apartments in the community and individuals live in those units. And they're also rent geared to income so that they're affordable. We since 2006, we've built 118 new units
Wow.
in Niagara. So we've been able to add more housing units
Mhm.
to the stock. And then on the other side, we provide support services. So if
That's
anyone
great.
if they live in any of our units, they have a case manager that's attached to them. And then they can receive the necessary supports for them to live independently in their own unit.
And John, do you find that people go through these steps with that they would like to go through it, or do you think they're kind of forced into it?
Our service is voluntary, right? So no one is coming to our service ordered by the courts or mandated in any way.
Mhm.
And I think because people have their own apartment and it's self-contained,
Mhm.
it's all about choice, right?
Mhm.
And I know for a fact that housing is the key
Yeah, for sure,
to
John.
a stable living environment
Mhm.
and being a part of your community. So,
right. Okay. What are the difficulties that people are facing right now through COVID, John?
Well, I mean, part of it you already talked about it. That's just the whole poverty issue, Pat, right?
Mhm.
As rents increase, as food costs increase,
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more challenging for
Mhm.
people on any kind of a fixed income, whether that's old age pension or welfare or disability. It's challenging. I think the other thing is that I think there's a lot of fear right now with COVID because
Mhm.
we don't really know what's going on. It's been going on for 2 years now. There doesn't seem to be an end.
No, it doesn't seem to
And
be. Wow.
I think you can't do a lot of things that you would like to do. I think you're leery about meeting with people face to face. I mean,
Yeah.
we're meeting by Zoom, right? Which
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Yeah.
zoomed out already. I'm just tired of Zoom. You can't even shake someone's hand anymore,
I
Pat. So
know.
it's
Very true, John.
it's
Very
the
true.
personal touch, right? It's
Yeah.
you lose that, right?
We've been doing with our group, John, for the whole 2 years
I
on
know, right?
Zoom.
So you can't go to a bowling alley, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go
Yeah.
to the Y.
And they've done it many times, John. They started it up and shut it down.
So you kind of lose that connect, right?
Yeah.
And I think people are more prone to depression, and because you're more isolated than you would have been in the past, right?
That's right, John. By the way, have you gotten your third shot, John?
Yes, I have.
Good for you.
Right?
I have too, John.
Because I work with people, Pat,
Yeah.
and
You need it.
because I have grandchildren, I think it's my responsibility to
Yes, that's good, John.
sure. And there are people that can't get it for a variety
For
of
certain
reasons.
reasons, yeah.
You have to be respectful of that, but
Right.
you're hoping that by following
Our lead.
what our doctors and government are saying
Okay.
is the right thing, right? And I think because of the internet now, there's a lot of mixed messages, and I think people get more confused because there's
Yeah.
probably too
Especially,
much information, right?
yeah, that's right. They're saying all kinds of things on the TV, on the news, and
Yeah,
people are getting confused, John, in every way.
yeah. So
John, how do people get your support? Like, how they get in contact with you, John?
they just have to call the mental health and addictions access line, and that's how you're connected to our services.
Okay.
And
Can people just show up at the building, John? Like when it's
not
available?
right now.
Not right now.
I mean, if someone doesn't have a phone, or we would make accommodations, but we're just trying to be cautious, and we're keeping numbers down at the office so that there's only half a dozen of us here at any given time.
Wow.
Right.
Well, and John, are there a number of people that work under you are there a number of people that work under you, John, to get the info to the people, the info that they need?
Yes, that's the role of the case manager, right? Their job is to work with people to identify what they need for a better quality of life. And I think nowadays, with having, like say, the internet and information Niagara and those kinds of services, I think it's a lot easier for people to access information. And I found the libraries in Niagara have almost taken a social service role, that they provide a lot of good information to people, and will help them connect.
Okay. And the last question, John, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
Yeah.
I enjoy golfing. And I'm not a good golfer, but in the summertime, I try to get out once a week.
Right.
And I have 2 grandchildren who come and see us on a regular basis. I'm lucky because they live in town. So and then we have my wife and I do a lot of gardening. We have a very nice yard, and we spend a lot of time keeping it up and maintaining it.
That's very nice, John. Wow. So I guess we'd like to thank you now, John, for doing the interview.
You're very welcome, Pat. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very
Appreciate
much,
that.
John.
Take
Have
care.
a good weekend.
You as well, Pat. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.